All right, let's expand the discourse on roles of state government when we're talking food storage facilities and also ways of mitigating, looting by hoodlums. We have a guest, I told you at the start of the news, Professor Abba, Gambo, Agric Advisor to Nigeria Governors Forum. Thank you very much, Prof, for joining us on Weekend Fire.
Thank you for having me, Ruth. I appreciate it.
All right, now quite an unfortunate situation. Of course, you've seen the reports where farmers on one hand are struggling, to meet up and, have means of storing their produce. We're also seeing looting on the other hand, from these warehouses, foods that are meant for the people being looted. Where did we get to this point?
Yeah, thank you very much. Now, let's just say that when you look at some few years back, we started with the COVID-19. COVID-19 had a kind of complete shutdown of the country. Farmers could not access their farms, and then there was a kind of food scarcity, one. Then secondly, we came with the cashless policy, and then farmers could not have money to buy inputs at the most needed time. For example, seeds at the beginning of the rainy season, fertilizer during the rainy season, they could not afford them because there was no money to buy it. So this also contributed. And then in the last 2 or 3 years, once again, you remember because of climatic change and some environmental vagaries, the rainfall pattern in the country has actually reduced. And even this year, NIMAT has said that the rainfall is still going to be lower than the normal average. So saying that the rainfall we are expecting this year is going to be lower than that of 2023. But then I must tell you that for the first time, we now have a synergy between the federal government, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, and the Nigerian Governors Forum. Just a few weeks back, the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, His Excellency the Governor of Kwara State, led his brother governors to meet the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Abba, and they discussed on the issues even before this crisis started. So what is so very important at this point in time is that there have been an agreement that there is hunger in the land. One, we just have to accept it. Nigerians are hungry, and then there is hunger in the land. This is a true statement that we must all agree.
Prof,
and then,
if I will come in there, that's a fact already established. But the federal government, we've seen the interventions from the federal level. Now, that's where the state, governments come in. To create that intervention. While the federal government is making room for distribution of palliatives, we shouldn't be having this looting, happen, especially in states. What kind of interventions is required? We've seen from the report security agencies are being involved, but really what other measures? Security, of course, is number one, but what other measures? Should these food items be distributed immediately, or should they be stored for a while before, getting to the right persons?
Thank you, Ruth. Remember that the major food areas, what we call the food baskets in the country, happen to be in the northeast at a time. Borno, shores of the Lake Chad Basin, Yobe, Bauchi, Adamawa, all these are food baskets. Then you come to the north central, you have Benue State, you have Niger State, Kaduna State, are all food producing areas. Then you move to the northwest, you have the Kebbi, Sokoto, Zamfara, Katsina axis producing massive amount of food. But insecurity has now curtailed all that they are doing. Starting from the northeast, for about 9 years, farmers in my state, Borno State, could not even access their farms. So that also contributed to what we're seeing now. And then secondly, come to the north central, the banditry, the kidnappings and everything, people cannot go to their farms. And then go to the northwest. Today, a farmer cannot access places like Bakolori Dam in Zamfara State, which is a massive food area. Places like Jibia Dam in Katsina State cannot be accessed. Places like Goronyo in Sokoto cannot be accessed. So the truth of the matter is that there is hunger in the land, and then insecurity has contributed it a lot. But now let me just talk about the typical mindset of a typical Nigerian. If you are invited to a wedding and then food is being served, you now hear some kind of commotion going on, and the waiter that is carrying all the plates to a particular place is usually being hijacked. This is a typical Nigerian scenario. And that's exactly what is manifesting. And in most cases, let us be truthful, those that are looting are not supposed to be the beneficiaries of the palliatives also. But now the truth of the matter is, since there is hunger in the land and the government has accepted to the extent that we should give the people the palliatives, then why don't you distribute the palliatives immediately? We saw the reports from various states, and the governors, Governor Babagana Zulum distributed plenty of food. The governor of Plateau did the same thing. In Kebbi, they are doing the same thing. In Sokoto, they are doing the same thing. In Akwa Ibom, they are doing the same thing. If the food or whatever that is in there in the strategic reserve is meant for the people, why keep it for a long time? Why don't you just bring it out and then identify the beneficiaries and give it to them?
All right, Prof, we'll pause with that thought. We'll take a break now. When we come back, Weekend File continues. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Let's take another report before we pick up with our conversation. In Kano, private security arrangements have been put in place as reinforcement at the Dawanau Grains Market to secure warehouses against any form of vandalism. Fatima Sanusi Karai reports that similar security arrangements have been provided at government and private warehouses located in various strategic areas. Let's see that.
Kano State Government and business community are adopting a symbiotic security approach in securing food items in their various warehouses in the state. Steps taken is to avert unseen security breach as witnessed in some part of the country in which warehouses were vandalized by some miscreants. Though Kano State did not record such ugly incidents, but is conscious of the fragile situation in the country.
We employ the services of Nigerian Legion, whereby a certain number of their personnel are being allocated to our area, and we keep giving them allowances daily. Up to now, they are there, keeping the remaining items that are yet to be evacuated.
Dawanau Grain Market has the largest warehouses, which store thousands metric tons of grains, largely owned by individuals. Understanding the uncertainties pervading the environment, tripartite security arrangements have been put in place. Musa Muhammad has been running his business in Dawanau Market. He said despite economic crunch, food items are relatively cheaper.
Honestly, to tell you the truth, we are scared here. We have security. Every now and then, vigilante will go around. And honestly, the food items are cheap too.
Security arrangement put in place is quite reassuring that public and government property are well secured, as Kano State Government has placed premium in ensuring safety of its citizenry. In Kano, Fatima Sanusi Karai, NTA News.
Thank you, Fatima. Prof, you just saw that report. What Kano State, in terms of intervention, they are doing security at, top is at the top, for them there. And that we've seen in other states, Ibadan and the FCT, of course, which is expected to be replicated across the country. But while we think, while the state governments are looking at ways to ensure that these warehouses are well secured, let's also consider the aspect of the farmer who are daily counting their losses because of inadequate infrastructure, for storage facility. How would you react to that?
Yeah, most importantly, let me tell you that after a survey, the post-harvest loss of food products in Nigeria was put about 59%. Example, for every 100 mangoes or tomatoes or oranges produced, 59 out of the 100 never gets to be eaten or to be consumed, to be processed. That is one. And then secondly, under the auspices of the Nigerian Governors Forum, we undertook a peer review of all the 36 states some few years back, and rules, to my greatest surprise, in all the 36 states, we never saw one single governmental functional agro-processing plant known in all the 36 states. And now most of these things are perishable. Our tubers are perishable, our tomatoes are perishable, our onions are perishable. And then to go about this is so easy. A kind of little small-scale micro-economic thing that can actually put the pepper in, you dry the pepper or you package it, you grind it, or you now get the onions, you put them into flakes, or you now cut the tomato, make it into paste. And I must tell you that I was on the entourage of the Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Food Security when we went to Ingasti for that tomato. We just came back yesterday. And what we saw was so very important that, but then it's now a kind of private sector driven. So at the Nigerian Governors Forum, the governors are aware, and for the very first time, the governors, 36 of them, are in tandem with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. And then, even after then, the governors have now decided to look at their regional blocks. You have the Northeast Governors Forum, tackling the problems together within their own zone, and you have the Southeast Governors Forum tackling the same problem. So it's not a kind of individual state issue now. The governors are aware, and just 2 days ago or 3 days ago, I saw His Excellency the Governor of Plateau State on Good Morning Nigeria of NTA, given a kind of pledge that the governors, all the 36 of them, are on the same page, and that they are working together at their regional levels and then at the national level. So these are the kind of things that will make you happy. And the governor of Plateau State came out to say directly that for the first time, there is political will in the leadership of the governors, and the Minister of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security also came out and said the political will that is lacking before has now come in.
Okay, Prof. And that's a collective effort you're talking about.
Definitely.
It requires all aspects. And we saw earlier in that, we saw the video playing, we've seen the private sector also coming in. These are ways of bridging the gap, you know, and stopping this deficits and losses, you know, the farmers, because it's quite unfortunate. It's a threat, you know, to their economic well-being. And if you have the private sector, it's one thing to make a pledge, like you're saying, that the state governments are making a pledge to invest, but it's another thing to ensure there's effective implementation of these pledges. So rounding off this conversation, going forward, really, what kind of advocacy do we want to see and friendly policies to help when we're talking innovative storage capacity and stopping this looting, you know, headlong?
Okay, now let me take the looting issue first, before I take your first question. Okay. Now for the looting, a hungry man is an angry man. You know, even in our homes, Ruth, sometimes before you finish the lunch, the children are there, Mommy, where is the food? Where is the food? You understand? Yeah. And then the husband comes in from office so tired, and he said, well, where is the food? No, the food is yet to be finished. Can you wait for some time? And you see everybody frowning in the whole house. So this is the typical mentality when somebody is hungry, really. So the looting issue can only be stopped when the citizenry have the wherewithal in their hands. Now, when you go to most of the markets, the food is there. You go to Utako market, you go to Wuse, look at the massive food at Dawano market, which is one of the major grains markets in Nigeria. And then by the time you go to Yobe State, you have the Potiskum grains market. It's also a very big market. You go to Ilela, you see the same thing. But then the affordability, they do not have the money in their hands to buy the food. So if you cannot feed your family the way you truly and really want to feed your family, then whatever that comes to your side is actually acceptable. I saw a cartoon in one of the newspapers, and then the man came with a bag of rice, and the wife was asking that, is that a palliative they've got? No, he said, no, it's not a palliative, but I'm trying to help the government to distribute it. You understand? So the message is very clear. Like I earlier said, if this thing is meant for a particular set of people, please bring them out and give it to them.
Prof, you want to round off that, we have to go. Round off the thought so we can go.
Okay, now secondly, talking about the post-harvest thing, like I told you, the processing plants are not there, but the governments or the governors are trying their very best to make sure that investors come in. But Ruth, if there is no security in any place, there is no way any investor will come. So first and foremost, the most important thing to be done in Nigeria is to make sure that there is security in most of the food producing states. And then you must make sure that the movement of food from an area of production to an area of demand should be done under good security so that things will move in smoothly.
Indeed, and let's hope that those involved, you know, will do the needful We just want to see Nigerians smile, right?
Yeah,
All right.
definitely.
Thank you very much, Professor Abba Gambo. He's the Agric Advisor to Nigeria Governors Forum.